Hello my friends and welcome to another stream of Adobe Live. Today I've got the very awesome paper creative and content creator, Rich McCor. Rich,
hello.
How you doing, buddy?
Good, I'm good. Great to be here. Thanks
nice
for having me.
To see you, aka Paper Boyo.
Paper Boyo.
How did that name come about?
It's not a great story. Basically, I wanted a username that's kind of combined what I did. So Paper Boy, and I was like, so I wanted Paper Boy. That was taken, so I just put an O on the end, and that was available on Instagram.
Yeah.
We went with that, and then when it started to grow, it was kind of like too late to change it, so kind of stuck with Paper Boy. But people think I'm Welsh now because of it. But, no.
I can see when I can easily pop out like your alter ego. And for our lovely creators, I mean, folks out there, I mean, how do you come about your work, your sort of style of what you do and who you are?
Yeah, so it's kind of hard to explain. Someone actually described me as a non-destructive vandal, which I think is actually a quite good description. So basically, I work with like architecture, landmarks, landscapes, and create these paper cutouts that overlay over them to turn them into something completely different. And it's kind of a hard one to like work with.
Some work to show,
so that's good. Hopefully, yeah. But it's kind of just. It's combining like stencil designs and quirky architecture and just like putting a twist on sometimes familiar scenes and sometimes unfamiliar scenes. So I do a lot of work with tourism boards and travel brands, finding ways to promote these sort of places that people recognise, but doing it in a fresh, interesting way.
I've noticed like going through your script. I mean, I had like a bit of a binge day just going through your feed.
Nice.
It's quite funny. Like there's a lot of humorous.
Yeah, there's I mean, that's kind of you to say. So great. There's some humour, hopefully some wit, and also lots of like pop culture references. I really like working with movie references and just sort of Simpsons references and things like that.
In there, right?
Yeah, Ghostbusters. That was for Adobe actually for a project last year. So yeah, that snuck in there. So yeah, kind of like my psyche comes out through the work, as all artistic work should. A bit of personality should come through in the work. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. And I think for our lovely folks, perhaps we can see some of your work. I know you've got some stuff to.
Yeah, totally. So basically, just sort of a bit of a background. So my stuff started I was living in London, and I used to be really into stop motion, creating stop motion animations, and I was into photography, but they were like separate things. So I'd go out in the evenings, take photos, but when I had time, I was making these stop motion animations and making music videos for friends' bands and things like that. Nice, like really dorky, but loved it.
That's cool. I can dig it. Yeah,
right.
You're in the right place to geek out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Not ashamed about it. And then I kind of like combined the two, and then sort of started walking around London with some of these paper cutouts, sort of trying to figure out a way to show London in a slightly different way that I hadn't seen anyone else do. And then it kind of evolved from that, and Instagram Instagram's around, but I jumped in Instagram at just the right time, and sort of the audience grew, and then like opportunities that I didn't even realise might come my way or even existed came my way, and so that was like 2016 when I really went for this full pelt. But yeah, I thought I'd show you a project that I did last year, and it's gone live this year. And again, it was one of those projects where when it came in, I was like, I didn't realise this was a thing. I didn't realise this would be an opportunity.
And organically just...
Yeah, and it just worked really nicely. So it's for a TV channel in Germany called WDR.
Okay.
So they are kind of like, a bit like the BBC, but for West Germany, so public broadcaster. And they wanted a series of idents for the TV channel. So idents are kind of like, before the news when you have like that 10-second sting of when the voiceover says coming up next, and you've got like some nice footage from somewhere. So this is what we did for them. So I thought I would first share some of the mock-ups I did, just to show you some of the sort of initial ideas. So we had to dig out, and I should say this was a collaboration with WDR, the channel, and Red Bee Media, who are a creative agency here in the UK. So this is collaboration between all of us. So we had to dig out these locations from West Germany that were sort of recognisable, that audiences would recognise, but that also I could come up with an idea that was going to work and sort of have some sort of relevance to the region or the area, or be instantly like it had to be it had to be something that people could get straight away. Cool. So here's some of the sketches that I sort of presented. So this is a castle, and obviously there's like with the fairy tales and Grimm brothers and things like that, dragons and mythological creatures that are kind of like part of the heritage.
Game of Thrones kind of vibes. I don't know.
Yeah, totally. I mean, again, this is probably my psyche coming through. The Game of Thrones stuff coming through. And then, just this is a structure that I'd recognised anyway. So when I had the opportunity to do something with it, I had quite a few ideas sort of like stored up in the back of my head for that one. I mean, that one was completely irrelevant, but I just thought it was kind of a fun. Yeah, exactly. Sometimes when you do these things, you've got to throw in the ideas which make you smile. And then, and like the more research we did, the more locations that we came across. And this is a bridge. And the other thing is that sort of when I was doing what I do, I learned to look at structures and landscapes in a slightly different way. So most people would look at that bridge from that angle, but then you have to try and find a different angle, slightly tilt it, and then you get this kind of idea of like,
I get that. That's cool.
And I mean, I know it's a bit of a cliche, but when you look at things differently, you really do start to get these different ideas. And then, here's a few other landmarks.
From the chat, I mean, everyone is absolutely buzzed. I know you can't say on your own, but I'm telling you now, right now, our audience are absolutely adoring it.
Great.
Tim, who said, this is super cool. He actually didn't know some of them were actually designed by you because he saw them online.
Oh, nice.
So absolutely incredible.
Brilliant.
Sandrine as well. And I should actually start by saying hello to everyone on the chat because I'm a terrible host. I do apologise. But yeah, hi to Tim, to Olivia, Kim, Sean. They're all here to see your stuff, man.
That's so cool.
All the comments come in.
Appreciate that a lot.
Sweet,
nice.
Very cool.
So sort of these are these Frank Gehry, really famous piece of architecture. So Frank Gehry building. So sort of that was like a must include playing around with these ones. So anyway, those are some of the sketches. Okay. But I thought I'd show you like the finished pieces. So let's go to, this is the first one. So I didn't go for the dragon in the end for this, but instead it's like But what I really love about this is that when I do what I do, it's so, I try and go for this like really organic, quite simplified version of it. It is just paper, me standing there. And what we did with this one is that we had some nice nuances with like sound effects. And you might have noticed like the sand, sort of a bit of sand coming out of his bucket. Things like that, which I wouldn't have necessarily thought of. But when you have a collaboration working with other people, which as I say, I'm normally on my own. So having these other creatives and editors who are like, oh, how about we do this, or how about we, grade it in such a way. So it was, it was really fun to do. Cool. And what I also love is that you can see the paper texture as well. I think that was quite an important thing, that it wasn't just like, I didn't want people to think it was all just graphics or animation and things like that. So yeah, we sort of thought long and hard about, I have the hand in because that proves that it's paper, but then when do we pull away the hand and how do we, it's like, these sort of...
I love that balance. I mean, that sounds like, I can see even from the chat, it's great, but like you have that, almost like, you've got traditional print mixing with a bit of digital, right? So you've got that kind of integration.
Exactly.
Which is awesome.
Yeah, and a bit of animation just to bring it to life, but it's still having this like homemade papercraft feel to it. So yeah, I'll show you I'll show you this one as well. Sorry, let me go full screen. So these are called the crane buildings, and they kind of have like that look of being sewing machines. So went for that with that one.
And what programs would you tend to use when you were creating digital? Is it a bit of Premiere, After Effects, or?
Premiere, After Effects, actually the whole range actually. So Premiere, After Effects, but then to design it, it's Photoshop and Illustrator, a mixture of those ones.
Okay.
And then I now use, so when I started I was doing it by hand, but my designs when I started were pretty much silhouettes, so easier to cut by hand. Now they're more stencils. I moved on to using a laser printer just because
for your sanity, just
exactly.
I get that.
But then what's great about that is that my laser printing machine works with Illustrator, so it's all
connected up.
Yeah,
it's
so
awesome.
it's nice and straightforward.
Do you know what came to mind? I hope we go to a piece, like really randomly. Do you get lots of paper cuts? Because I feel like, and that's not a pun at all.
No.
You do deal with a lot of paper, and I'm wondering.
Not so much the paper itself, but when I was working with scalpels, there was a number of times when, if you're not paying attention.
Safety first, my friend. So
totally,
just sort of get out as this.
Which is another reason why the laser printer was a bit safer.
Nice.
I'll show you a couple more if that's cool. This is probably my favourite one from the series. Let's see, take you back to that one. Yeah. So we did a bit of day and night with this one, which I quite like. And this was a structure that the client was really keen for me to use. And I was really struggling to come up with an idea for it. And then when this idea, when you get an idea and you're just like, yes, and it really feels like it clicks, and it's like, that's the idea. So I definitely had that eureka moment with this one, and it was. I'm so so happy with how that one turned out, including I'm a big fan of dogs, so the fact that we just by chance
it wasn't staged at all.
No. By chance, we did do a stage bit where our producer walked in, so we felt like we needed something going on. But then this dog walker came in, did that, was happy to sign the release.
It was meant to be. It was meant to be.
So that's probably my favourite one from the series, and then just a few behind the scenes photos here.
Behind the scenes, kind of.
Credit to the team there, and it was as I say, it was great to work with other people, because usually, as I say, it's me on my own, which, and don't get me wrong, I love that, but to work with some other creatives, some experienced people, and a director of photography who really knows his stuff, it was a real thrill. Yeah.
I can see, I mean, from the comments, I mean, we've got Linda who said, I'm loving these ideas, very cool, smiley face emoji, and then Lee, he said, love these simple ideas. So again, any comments you guys have, get in the chat, and of course I'll share that with Rich as well, but everyone's loving
the stuff, great. I forgot to, and also, we can see it against my light shirt. So this is one of the cutouts that I used. So
up against that Adobe logo there,
there we go.
In itself, I'm on stage, wasn't it?
But so this is kind of like the size of them in real life, and then of course there's a bit of manufacturing the perspective and size of them when we do this. But this is. But they are quite flimsy, so if it's a windy day, it's even more of a challenge.
I feel like you need like a mold or something like to kind of keep them together. When I saw when you came today, you had like a little pack of like layers.
Exactly,
cool.
My Christmas presents are always like folders or things for me to store them in. Yeah, exactly.
I love that. Well, I mean, on that topic of, you mentioned quite a few things there. Inspiration in terms of where out. Obviously, we're at D&AD event in sunny Truman Brewery.
Yeah.
We are filled with inspiration left, right, and centre, right? Kind of going on this topic of making change, in keeping with obviously the theme of D&AD. If there's one change you can make within your industry, big question I know, what would you like to make?
I think, so when just a bit of a backstory for me, like before this I used to work at a creative agency on a very junior level, and I sort of went from, like production assistant, making cups of tea, photocopying, to junior creative, and then, and when I was trying to like really get into the creative side of things at the company, I remember sitting around a table. I mean, one, it was great that I was invited to sit around the table with other creatives and producers and all that to pitch ideas, but just feeling way too intimidated to actually say,
intense, man.
Because you're sitting next to people who know their stuff, and so when they come around to you and you sort of got to like give out an idea, it's a really intimidating environment. So I would sort of say, building upon that, just creating a platform, a way for the younger rookies or the newbies to express their ideas, and not in such an intimidating environment. So sort of give them a chance, or giving them, I don't know, there's like, challenges, creative challenges where people like young people can prove themselves and have these opportunities. And sharpen skills. Exactly that. Rather than, because I just remember feeling incredibly intimidated, and if I didn't feel like I had an idea that I cracked, or that I could present, that I'd be like, all right, where does that leave me? So
that's cool to know. And I know, I mean, the beauty, obviously, what we do as well with Adobe Live is that it ranges from the audience that comes in, whether it's students, grads, it's all levels. And hearing yourself, obviously, very established creative, but going back to even when you were, junior, and those experiences, I feel like the audience will definitely thrive off that. To know it's realistic. People also go through, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, it's all polished online, but actually,
no, of course,
it's tricky.
I mean, you never see like the rubbish, the mistakes, all of the errors.
The paper cuts.
The paper cuts. There's plenty of that. Literally on the cutting room floor, right?
There's a trail of paper behind you. I love that. I know Rich is on the way, but anyway.
But I'd also say on top of that though, when you have like those people because I remember I had colleagues who were really supportive about. So obviously I was doing this stuff as a hobby whilst I was still working there, and they would come up to me and say, that's really, that's great, you should keep going. And that was so important, having those sort of people who would come in and just drop you a little bit of enthusiasm, a little bit of encouragement. So if anyone who's watching is in the position where you're the slightly more senior creative, or there's someone in your company or a friend who's trying to make their hobby a career, or just trying to build their hobby, then just dropping them like a well done or a congrats or a keep going is so valuable. So I'd really encourage them to do that.
Make sure you share that. That's a very good point, because actually sometimes we kind of get lost in our ways. Obviously, we're so fixated on wanting to get the best deliverable, but there's levels of whichever agency you go to, right? And actually, it's kind of making it easier for younger levels or junior levels to actually thrive, right? And feel comfortable.
Totally. And if you're the creative director at an agency and you go up to the intern and say, "Oh, that piece of work that you did or that idea you had was great," that would mean so much to that intern, I'm sure. So yeah,
you get the best out of them, right?
You want to
produce your best work.
Exactly. And you never know, because I can still remember people saying that to me when I was there, and it's still, 10 years later or whatever, still means so much to me.
In your mind.
Yeah.
Wake up a cold sweat. I remember that time that creative director said. No, that's great. And to be honest, that's kind of feeding into what the next question I was going to ask, because any tips for students and grads? Because again, we're at D&AD, we're full of inspiration. A lot of students are here as well today.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel like that kind of feeds into what you were saying before. But if there's one final note to kind of end on, any advice for, say, students and grads who maybe they're going into that space of the unsure, the uncertainty of the industry, and obviously seeing someone like yourself kind of in that space, is there any tips you can give them to?
Just make sure you love doing it. Make sure you find doing what you love. I've got the words in the right order there. Yeah. Make sure you love what you're doing, basically, because ultimately there will be challenges. There will be people who might not be as talented as you, but who are doing better than you, and you're going to be like, why is that happening? You're going to have self-doubt. All of these things are going to happen, but if you love what you're doing, that passion is going to drive you through all of that and keep you sustained through all of those challenges. So if you're sort of trying to do something because you think, I have a lot of people who obviously ask me about how do you get a big on Instagram, how do you get a big social media following, and I feel like it's kind of the wrong question. The right question is, how do you find that thing that you love? Because as I say, ultimately it's going to be that passion that will get you through all of the challenges and all of those moments where you're like, oh, this isn't working for me. So to give you a succinct answer, it's find the thing that you love.
Nice, you heard it first, my friends. All of these amazing tips and advice straight from Rich. And a very final note, how can our lovely folks follow up about you, very on social media? Is there anything you want to
it's just Paperboyo on Instagram, so Paperboy with that O on the end on Instagram.
Don't forget the O. I love that.
So that's where my main thing is. That's where I pretty much post that. And then that content that I showed you earlier, that is on WDR in Germany. So if you're ever in West Germany, click on the TV and you might see that in between the programs.
Nice. Rich, it's been a pleasure, my friend.
Thanks
you
so
much for having us on the W stream and being here. And stay tuned, my friends, because we're going to have a few more guests throughout the day. So you're in a good place for inspiration. So we'll see you very soon. Ciao.